One thing I know about America, we know how to make money. We have our issues. We definitely have our issues. We're a crazy country in our own retrospect. But at the end of the day, America knows how to make a dollar. And that's why we're the reserve currency. And that's why we're probably going to be the reserve currency for a lot longer. Death of the US dollar doesn't matter when investing in stocks. Make sure you watch this full video today because this one's an absolute banger. What's up, everybody? Art Turner, Data Productions Media. Dreams are tangible aspirations where we scheme our dreams into existence. Like I said in the intro, I have another banger for you guys today. We're going to talk about is the US dollar really in jeopardy of losing reserve currency status of the world? Is BRICS a real player? So we'll get into that article today, but that's not going to change up how we find good businesses because good businesses have been around since the beginning of time. They'll be around after I leave this earth, and they'll probably be around forever, no matter what type of shape or form it comes into. If you don't already know, you can go to my website, dataproductionsmedia.com, where you can get all my previous articles. There's a lot of knowledge on here for free, written form for everybody. So if you want to follow along during this video, dataproductionsmedia.com, get to this article, and let's get to it. All right. BRICS nations are teaming up trying to take global trading volume away from the US denominated dollar, USD. Will they succeed in their attempt, or is it just a show of weakened nations uniting to salvage some strength as the world economy continues to falter? So that's going to be the overall arching theme of this article today. Is BRICS taking over? That's going to be Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America. China is really the bigger one in this BRICS acronym, this BRICS group. China and Russia are really the two big powers in here, and they just teamed up to do trading with each other for oil and whatnot. So they're kind of bringing everything in, trying to consolidate. As usual, the Eastern powers versus the Western powers, as it's been ages through human history. But for some quick decodes, because this is really going to get into what this all means. USD is last of money in physical. Good investing works in any era. USD is the last dollar before a digital. That all equals 333 in English ordinal. So you know that's very powerful. Along with all the other connections, you have the 135s in reduction for good investing works in any era. USD is the last dollar before a digital. And you have the reverse ordinals and the reverse reductions. All right, so you see there is something there. Now, what does that all mean? We're going to get into it as we go further. All right, what does it mean if USD is the last of its kind in the physical? Is the digital dollar, like they've been foreshadowing for years, is that to come? When is that going to come? Is it going to be under the United States denomination, or is it going to be a different country? So these are all things that come to mind. Russia wants BRICS nations to explore new trade currency. So I guess the BRICS nations want something more or less like the euro. We'll see. Towards de-dollarization, BRICS advances alternative to US denominated financial system. So again, they're trying to fight back. Does this end up becoming a World War III at some point? We'll see. But if World War III does happen, whoever comes out on top most likely will have the reserve currency. And am I worried that the Western powers, the US, aren't going to be on top of that World War III? If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet against it. But, this world's a crazy place. So you kind of just have to wait and see. And you have to go back to what history tells you. History tells you, a nation is not the reserve currency for forever. All right. And so as we go further, there's documented that the reserve currencies can go back to 1450 with, heavy documentation. And when looking at history, you can see, okay, if this happened in the past, how can we extrapolate that out for, future, outcomes? Okay. And so This is really enlightening on how we should see the world and how the monetary system works, especially along with the military. So, for the world reserve currencies since 1450, the U.S. supplied the Allies in World War II and got paid in gold. All right, remember the USA helped out the European nations, the Allies, when the war really got tough, and how they got paid was via gold. After the war, countries linked their currencies to the US dollar, which was linked to gold. The gold standard ended completely in 1971, but the US dollar reserve status remained. All right, so this is actually important because for both world wars, the Federal Reserve started, I believe, in like 1912. So that really was the start when World War One was starting to come about. The U.S. Federal Reserve started in 1912, and that was really the start of funny money. Okay, and so the gold standard happened when in like the 30s when the U.S. went to the gold standard. It was all the way up to that to 1971, and that's when the U.S. decided to get off the gold standard. And we'll get into the different histories of systems economically in the world. Technically, the U.S. is on their second phase of reserve currency status. Before, it was gold backed. Everybody was behind the U.S. It wasn't gold backed anymore, so that's now a new system, but it was still the U.S. So we're technically in a second phase, potentially going into a third phase for America with the digital dollar, which is very different from what has happened in the past. Today, about 60% of all foreign bank reserves are denominated in US dollars. We know that. Nearly 40% of the world's debt is in US dollars. We know that. As a reserve currency, you are the broker. You have the most liquidity in the system, helping facilitate transactions around the world. So it makes sense we have all the most of the bank reserves in the world's debt, within our denomination. Reserve currency status has both benefits and drawbacks. The benefits are lower exchange rate risk and greater buying power, and the drawbacks are artificially low interest rates that can spur asset bubbles and inflation. If America pumps too much liquidity into a system, into a country, that inflates their dollar as well. It will cost more for them to get goods and services. So there's positives and negatives. It's a blessing and a curse. When you are the top dog in the money world, it's a double-edged sword. And we're gonna, get into the downside of that, right? The drawback. Since 1450, there have been 6 major world reserve currency periods. Now, when we get into these 6 periods of time, you have to understand these were also the military powers of the time. When you think about who to trust with investments and money, it has always gone to the highest military power at the time. All right. We're only going back to 1450 for the modern day reserve currencies. But if we go back to Rome, when Rome was the top dog in the world, they were the top military power, right? And what happened with them monetarily, the rise and the fall. But you investors trusted Rome at the end of the day for 1,000 years. And most of it was because of the military. They said at the end of the day, no matter whatever happens in this world, Rome most likely is going to still be on top because of their military prowess. That's why I invest in them. So you got to keep that in mind. And so let's go over the 6 major periods since 1450. Portugal, 1450 to 1530. During that time, Portugal was the top military power. They had ships, they were sailing, they were making discoveries, they were expanding, they had industry. People invested in them because it made sense. It was a bet that seemed as safe as possible. And you had Spain, 1530 to 1640. Again, boats, expansion, finding money, trade routes, and things like that. There was money to be made, and they're the top dog of that. So that's why they were the reserve currency. Now, this is when it really gets interesting because, not a lot of people talk about the Dutch a lot when it comes to powers in history. unless you talk about the Netherlands having one of the biggest, if not the best, one of the most historic elite companies ever in the Dutch East India Company. They had a dividend of like 18% for 200 years back then. All right, and so that company, but that company had its own military, its own militia to carry out, conquests and expansion in India, in the East, when sailing and stuff. So literally, though it was technically a company, the Dutch East India Company, it was a military as well for the Netherlands. The Dutch controlled the world via the Dutch East India Trade Company, and a lot of people forget that. And so that's an interesting one. I may do a video on that company later. One of the best ever. When you talk about companies in the modern or ancient world that have an 18% dividend over 200 years, crazy. We talk about old money. That's crazy. All right. Um, France, yeah, 1720, 1815. Now, mostly for this time, again, military wise, I believe Napoleon was alive during this time. You had Napoleon. Napoleon is, by all accounts, is one of the best, if not the best, looking at most metrics, the best war general in history. Better than Caesar, better than Hannibal, by a wide margin. They're not even in their same. They're not even Napoleon's category of eliteness when it comes to being a war general. So you're just going to invest in that. You're going to put your money on that guy, right? That France doesn't go down. Then you have Great Britain, 1815 to 1920. So really carrying up all the way to the World Wars, Great Britain was the top power. You had the Queen sailing, imperialism. They were in Africa, setting up colonies. They were doing a lot. You had old school Churchill, holding it down and things like that. So Great Britain had their run. They were the top military power before the World War I and World War II. And then the United States from 1921 to today. Again, the wars started happening. They looked to America for support. They paid them in gold. The person with gold has the most riches, and this is why we are the reserve currency today. And if you'll notice, the average currency, reserve currency span is about 94 years. The US dollar presently has been the world's reserve currency for over 100 years now. And, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Not next year, not the year after, maybe not a decade from now. Maybe 30 years down the line, another country could come into play. But who knows? Because, again, as we keep going further, it might just be another phase for the US dollar coming, because who's going to take America out right now? Military or not, who can really uh, withstand the issues globally right now and be the reserve currency? So that's a lot of things you have to take in consideration. So I would look at this article. It's very, very good. Very good. And as you see, world currency, military backing, 333 English ordinal. So it's right there. It's simple. When you have military backing, most likely you're the world currency. When you're the world currency, most likely you have the most military backing. That's why you see it in 333. Keep it simple, come on. And so let's get into the different segments of what this could possibly mean. What would a death look like for USD? What does death look like? And does BRICS pose a real threat? And so I got this concept from George from George Gammon, and he breaks this down on his YouTube channel. Go to George Gammon on YouTube. Very good person to learn a lot from financially and stuff like that. Smart dude. But he breaks this down into three parts, right? The USD versus other currencies, USD versus US goods and services, and USD versus reserve status. So it's three prongs, and really they're separate, but they all correlate. All right, but on a balancing scale, you have to take all this into consideration if you really do believe if the US dollar is going to be taken out by somebody, BRICS or not. All right. And so definitely check out that YouTube video. But again, like I brought up before, two phases of fiat. 55 in English reduction. America market, 55 English reduction. Third phase of USA, 55 English reduction. So we'll see. I think it makes the most sense for the world when the world gets to the digital dollar, because when businesses start to merge with crypto, it just kind of makes sense. I believe most likely that's going to be US again, um, into the third phase. So USD versus other currencies. So I just brought up the notable currencies in the top 10. All right, you have the Kuwaiti dinar, the Bahraini dinar, the Omani rial, Middle Eastern places, the Jordanian dollar. Then you have the British pound at 5, which is notable for sure. Great Britain. You have the Cayman Islands dollar, the Swiss franc. The euro is tied at 8 with the Swiss franc, and then you have the US dollar rounding out the top 10. So these, when you talk about top 10 currencies in the world strength wise, um, US being in the top 10, what currency you see right here could overtake the reserve status right now? The only one relatively close could be the euro. All right. And the British pound, economically, Great Britain isn't really in an expansion's place to really take on that type of role. So when you just look at other currencies right now, take out BRICS and whatever they're doing, US being in top 10 is still very strong. I don't think they should be worried about a death anytime soon if this is their competition. Maybe Europe. And so let's get into the gross domestic product, the GDP of USA and Euro, because you have to understand the Euro is its second competitor. It's the runner-up. If anybody's going to take over the US dollar right now, it would be the Euro. All right. So let's look at their GDPs to see what they look like. And you have to understand the European Union has many countries involved. I think over 20 countries in it. So it's pretty much almost all of Europe together, right? So we're taking a whole continent almost versus the GDP of just one country of America. So the United States GDP was $23.3 trillion in 2021, and the European Union was $17.18 trillion. All right. So with 20 countries opposed to one country in the United States, there's still a $6 trillion difference of the USA being above. So the top competitor within the top 10 still is not on economic playing field like the United States. The digital USD, third for world reserve, 334 ordinal. I'm implying the rule of Colell here, which gives you that plus minus of 1 digit. So with the rule of Colell, digital USD third for world reserve could be seen as 333, even though it is 334. In gematria with Colell, it seems it's as close enough. And Alf, this is a person I follow on Twitter, Macro Alf. He's pretty smart. I think he's from Italy, but he follows the U.S. markets, and he's pretty objective and reasonable. And he actually said that this today, April 27th. Believe it or not, the most immediate competitor for the USD's role of global reserve currency is the euro. It's not hard to believe, right? It's second in reserve currency already. The currency of a monetary but not physical and not banking union with a super small AAA bond market which undergoes a breakdown crisis every few years. USD competitors suck. So even Italian is telling you there's nobody right now that can really take over the US dollar as reserve status, you know? So that's where we are right now. And that's only just versus other currencies. We'll get into the goods and services and how that interrelates internationally. And this is a good little segment here. A strong dollar is good for some and relatively bad for others. With the dollar strengthening over the past year, American consumers have benefited from cheaper imports and less expensive foreign travel. At the same time, American companies that export or rely on global markets for the bulk of sales have been hurt. It is disadvantage to a strong dollar is companies based in the US that conduct a large portion of their business around the globe will suffer as the income they earn from foreign sales will decrease in value on their balance sheets. Investors in such companies are also likely to see a negative impact. Very interesting. McDonald's Corp. And Philip Morris International, which is, I believe, Philip Morris is like gas, energy. Obviously, McDonald's is food, fast food, are well-known examples of U.S. companies with large percentage of sales occurring overseas. While some of these companies use derivatives to hedge their currency exposures, not all do, and those that do hedge may only do so in part. So, for McDonald's situation, if American inflation, the dollar gets too strong, what people abroad they feel that means their currency power isn't as powerful and whatnot. So that's very interesting when it comes to investing in American companies, regardless if they are incorporated in the U.S. You have to understand they're international businesses as well. So all things work on all things, like I've always said in the stock market. And again, none of this really should hurt investing, all right? Because at the end of the day, money's still got to go around somewhere, and businesses have lasted for hundreds of years through many different currencies. Especially if you look at distilleries, breweries, those are some of the oldest businesses in the world, going back to the 1300s, 1400s. There were 6 nations with different currencies during that time. Kettle One is one example of a distillery, a vodka, family-owned vodka company that's been around for ages, hundreds of years. So that's a lot of things you have to think about. But before we get into the last section of the USD versus reserve status, I want to let you guys know that I do have a Patreon page where you can help support the channel and overall growth of the community. For only $5 a month, you can get my Gematria Stocks newsletter and note tier with the monthly private conference call. That's only $5 a month. That's a great value, all right? And like I said, you get thousands of decodes, a monthly call with other community members, and I have a presentation where we go over my, dividend portfolio, growth stocks. It's for about an hour, and it's worth it, in my opinion. We all come together for a little bit, and we learn something, and we go about our day into the next month with some more knowledge that we're equipped with. So really consider that. And also, I have a Discord where you can join for free, where you can get updates for my conference calls. All right. And before my conference calls, I always put up the meeting outline. And so here is the meeting outline for the second meeting. Death of the dollar. We're going to go more into depth. We're going to talk about money masquerades, businesses masked as other businesses, finding the fair value of a company. So we're going to get into some fundamental analysis. We're going to calculate some things. Pluto in Aquarius for water stocks in 2024. I've already done a presentation of that in the past, June 2022, but I'm going to update that for the stock, and we're going to go over fundamental and technical chart analysis to see if it's time to buy again for this specific water stock. We're going to also go over the data cap dividend portfolio, the top performers, the bottom performers, honorable mentions. I'm going to talk about one more in depth, and we're going to be talking about investing internationally in Israel. All right, so that's going to be a very interesting conversation that I hope you guys want to be a part of. So once again, make sure you go to the link in the description or in the comment section below and join my Patreon to sign up for the Gematria Stocks private call newsletter tier. Join my Discord, which is free, to get updates for the conference calls or anything else. Gematria, we talk stocks, conspiracies, sports, everything. So this is the place you want to be. It's free, amazing community. Everyone in here I love, and it's a great time. So think about that. Also, for another tier I have the monthly sports documentaries, which is also $5 a month. 2 raw for YouTube, 30 minutes long. And right now I have 22 30-minute long documentaries on my Gematria, sports documentary tier. So, I've just been grinding. I'm going to get up to 33, which gets us to March 2024, which then I'm going to compile them all and make a pretty dope specialized DVD cassette or something like that. So stay tuned with that, some artwork, some posters. But again, if you love my sports documentaries, get that more esoteric side within the sports world, see how it affects society, that's only $5 a month you can join. But say if you want both my Gematria Stocks newsletters and my sports documentaries, you can get my Dream Schemers Ultimate Woke Pack, which is only $8.63 a month, $1.37 off, which is the 33rd Prime. So I think it's an awesome deal, highly valuable. Not only you get to see society through the sports realm for entertainment, esoterically, spiritually, but you also can get some financial education via gematria spiritually as well. So I think this tier is the best value. Obviously, it's the most popular. So consider that, please. It'll help the channel out. It will help the community grow. I'm here at your guys' disposal when you guys need anything. I started a new stock YouTube channel, Stock Market Gematria with Data Capital Investment. Please consider joining and subscribing to this YouTube channel. It's only going to be stocks, all right? I'm only putting stocks, financial videos on here, crypto as well, and I already have a bunch on there you can learn from, all right? So my main data productions media channel won't get caught up in the wash anymore with the over content spanning various topics. All right, so that's a good one. Stock market gematria with data capital investment. Please subscribe if you're really focused on stocks with gematria and financial knowledge. If you just want my strictly sports content, I have the Sports Vault, ESPN Enemy Number One. All my sports stuff is going to be on here. Still conspiracy based without the gematria because YouTube doesn't necessarily like gematria sometimes. But all sports based, conspiracy sports based, and it's a channel even without the hidden numbers behind it. So consider subscribing to this channel as well. So I have two secondary channels under my data productions media umbrella holding company. We're getting the branches out there. We're trying to spread out like what businesses do. So if you like what I do on my channels, please consider support me any which way possible. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the support thus far. Okay, so now to finish up the article, let's talk about the USD versus reserve status. After 2022, quarter 4, it came out the USD is 58.36% of the world currency status. You see in this big blue right here. The euro is at about 20.5%. Okay, so you see it this light blue right here. The US is still almost triple the reserve status of what the euro is. So it has a long way to go. And again, it has so many other issues. And so as you see, the sterling pound about 5%, the Japanese yen about 5.5%, and then you have the Chinese yen under 3%. All right. And that's the one that they're signing up with BRICS and Russia trying to take over and get, transactional things involved. So if China is really trying to do something, the reserve currency status, they have a long way to go. And people have to trust them as well. Is the world going to trust China if they, are the broker of the world for money? I mean, if it's forced, maybe. If they win World War III, maybe. All right, but I don't think anybody's really trusting it just off the strength of them being monetary powerhouses or anything like that. One thing I know about America, we know how to make money. We have our issues. We definitely have our issues. We're a crazy country in our own retrospect. But at the end of the day, America knows how to make a dollar. And that's why we're the reserve currency. And that's why we're probably going to be the reserve currency for a lot longer. All right, we're going to blow out any other reserve currency status for another country ever. All right, we're almost there. We're already past year 100. All right, and there's no one around right now that could really take it over. So that's essentially where we're at. And as you see, for some final decodes, we have digital USD X crypto merger is third, and new global currency after USD defaults is 380 in English ordinal. So you see that connection there. You also understand 38 gematria equals 38 energy. So that's a big decode. Remember, 0 is just a value placeholder. And new global currency after USD defaults is 137 in reduction. So you see it is very important. We also have a global recession means everyone invests in American stocks, 222 in English reduction. That's a big decode right there. When the United States of America is no longer investable, invest in the digital world. 332 in English reduction. Remember, Colell rule, so 333, just one digit up. The digital USD is third in the American economy phase as global reserve currency. That's 330 in English reduction. So you see powerful decodes. I don't think America is going anywhere. There's no death of the dollar coming anytime soon. Obviously, it's going down, the down of the dollar, but everything's going down. So it is what it is. Keep investing. Businesses will be businesses. If you invest in good businesses, no matter what world, no matter what currency, you will be okay. All right. That's what the world has shown time and time again. But it always helps if you have military backing, government funding involved. So remember that. But with all that being said, again, join my Patreon for either my gematria stocks or my documentaries or both. Monthly conference call this Sunday, 12 noon Eastern. Okay. Last Sunday of every month, we're going over stocks, financial information together as a community, live in time over video chat, Google Meet. I would love to have you. Please consider signing up because I think it's highly valuable. And that's all I have for you guys today. Art Turner, D.A.T.A Productions Media. Dreams are tangible aspirations where we scheme our dreams into existence. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.